Tonight, tornado threat. The powerful spring storm bringing flash floods and strong winds, with the danger continuing late into the night as cleanup begins after twisters touch down in the Midwest.
I was praying so hard that the Lord would save me in my house.
CBS Evening News starts now. Good evening, I'm Nora O'Donnell, and thank you for being with us. We are coming on the air, tracking areas bracing for severe weather tonight, including thunderstorms and tornadoes. At this hour, parts of the Ohio Valley, Indiana, Kentucky, and Ohio are under a tornado watch. Plus, tens of millions more are experiencing dangerous weather. This is the same fierce storm system that caused serious damage from Texas to West Virginia. Kentucky's governor today declaring a state of emergency after twisters demolished homes and stopped traffic after knocking down power lines. A different tornado leveled buildings in Oklahoma, destroying nearly everything in its path. More than a third of the country right now is under a weather alert. There are blizzard warnings in Michigan and flood watches in New Jersey. So with all of that news, we've got team coverage, starting with Justin Michaels from our partners at the Weather Channel.
It happened fast and it was furious. Dangerous winds knocked someone at the University of Kentucky clear off their feet. Vicious storms cut a path of destruction across the Ohio Valley.
Oh, dear God, this is bad.
Mindy Broughton posted this video after whipping winds tossed and flipped mobile homes in Hanging Rock.
I thought we were going to die, but our camper is fine.
In Columbus, 2 people were rescued after the Scioto River flooded.
We're in a very dangerous situation. People just need to be very, very careful.
A possible tornado touched down late afternoon in Louisville, Kentucky. The governor of Kentucky declaring a state of emergency. Traffic on this highway ground to a halt after high winds blew down power lines. Oh! Some ran for cover, escaping the fast-moving storm just in time. And this massive billboard came down on top of this vehicle in Dunbar, West Virginia. In Oklahoma, the same storm system left a mountain of debris yesterday. Omar Villafranca is there.
Last night's storm ripped through this neighborhood in Barnsdall, Oklahoma, just outside of Tulsa, and turned small buildings and homes into a pile of rubble like this behind me. The National Weather Service's preliminary report says an EF1 tornado with wind speeds up to 110 miles an hour caused all this damage. The tornado leveled 81-year-old Doris Parker's storage shed, but spared her life.
I was praying so hard that the Lord would save me in my house. I didn't think about asking him to save my garage.
Back here in the Ohio Valley, people are also starting the recovery process after the storm. Authorities here in both Kentucky and Ohio have taken this very seriously today. In fact, school districts in many places let out early so school buses full of children wouldn't be on the road during severe weather. Nora?
Wow, that's scary. Justin Michaels, thank you very much for that update. Tonight, there is outrage at the White House after an Israeli airstrike in Gaza killed at least 7 aid workers from the World Central Kitchen. President Biden called the organization's founder, Chef Jose Andres, to express his heartbreak today. CBS's Holly Williams reports on the response from Israel's prime minister.
World Central Kitchen says its team members were traveling through central Gaza in 3 vehicles when they were killed by an Israeli strike. It appears their convoy was hit multiple times, including a direct strike to an armoured car, though it was clearly marked with the group's name. World Central Kitchen says it was coordinating its movements with Israel's military, which has promised to investigate what happened. The US-Canadian victim hasn't been named. 3 British citizens were killed, an Australian woman, Zoni Frankham, and a Polish man, Damien Sobol. Their Palestinian driver, Saif Abu Taha, was buried today. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called the incident tragic and unintentional in a statement, also saying, quote, "This happens in war."
These people are heroes.
The US has demanded a swift and impartial investigation with strong words for its ally.
We've impressed upon the Israelis the absolute imperative of doing more to protect innocent civilian lives, be they Palestinian children, women and men, or be they aid workers.
World Central Kitchen was founded by Jose Andres, the award-winning Spanish-American chef, and feeds the hungry everywhere from the US to Ukraine.
Ukraine needs our help because we need them to win this war, because we need to be feeding the world.
The Israeli government needs to stop this indiscriminate killing, Andres posted on social media last night, and stop using food as a weapon. Funded by donations, his charity's been shipping hundreds of tons of food to the Gaza Strip, even building a makeshift pier and then distributing the aid by truck.
The United Nations says at least 196 aid workers have been killed in Gaza and the West Bank since October. World Central Kitchen says it's decided to pause its operations in this region. Nora.
That will be devastating for so many. Holly Williams, thank you. President Biden spoke with Chinese President Xi Jinping for nearly 2 hours today amid tensions between the two world powers. It's their first conversation since November, and President Biden says they spoke candidly about maintaining peace in Taiwan and the South China Sea. The leaders also discussed TikTok and the flow of fentanyl entering the U.S. and election meddling. Now to the 2024 race for the White House. President Biden's campaign is hitting the airwaves with a hard-hitting political ad focusing on abortion rights. And they're using Donald Trump's own words in an effort to warn voters. CBS's Nancy Cordes reports the former president is on the campaign trail in the Midwest, where he's focusing on another wedge issue, immigration.
Joe Biden's border bloodbath, and that's what it is. It's a bloodbath.
Despite criticism from both sides, former President Trump used the word bloodbath again today, this time to describe crimes committed by migrants.
The Democrats say, please don't call them animals. They're humans. I said, no, they're not humans. They're not humans. They're animals.
It was 2.5 weeks ago, while talking about the future of the U.S. auto industry, that Trump warned of a bloodbath if he isn't elected in November. Today, his campaign went a step further, launching an immigration-related website, though there is no evidence that undocumented migrants commit violent crimes at higher rates than U.S. citizens.
What's the White House reaction to the use of that term bloodbath?
Our response is we have to denounce any violent rhetoric that we hear, certainly from our leaders, right?
The Biden campaign was focused today on abortion, launching this new ad 1 day after Florida's Supreme Court cleared the way for a 6-week abortion ban to go into effect in the state next month.
Donald Trump doesn't trust women. I do.
The state court also allowed an abortion rights measure to appear on Florida ballots come November. The Biden camp hopes that will help drive Democrats there to the polls, just as similar initiatives have in other states.
I will be voting this November. If I have to be in there with my crutches or my wheelchair, I will be there.
Trump was campaigning in another key state, Michigan, where he brought up the $175 million bond he just posted in his New York civil fraud case.
I'm the only one that has to put up a bond. You know, I put up a bond. I didn't do anything wrong.
Nancy Cordes is with us. $175 million, a lot of money. What do we know about the man who gave Trump this financial lifeline?
Nora, he is a Los Angeles billionaire. His name is Don Hankey. He is known as the king of subprime auto loans. And this isn't the first time he has come to Trump's financial rescue when many others wouldn't. It has happened at least twice before when Trump was over-leveraged, including in 2022 when he gave Trump a loan to refinance Trump Tower.
Nancy Cordes, following the money. Thank you. Tonight, there are growing questions about the police shooting of a 15-year-old girl on the side of a California highway in 2022. Newly released video appears to show the teenager attempting to surrender before being killed in a shootout. CBS's Elise Preston reports California's Department of Justice is now investigating.
It's taken a year and a half for this video to be made public, one that appears to show deputies gunning down the victim of a kidnapping. Deputies had just cornered the father of 15-year-old Savannah Graziano in a high-speed chase. Officers had been on the hunt for her father, Anthony, who allegedly murdered her mother and abducted the girl.
She's out on the passenger side.
Tense moments as Savannah gets out of the truck. Deputies are heard coaxing her to safety when it all went horribly wrong.
Go, 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 go! Walk, 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 walk! Hey! Stop! Stop shooting her! He's in the car! Stop!
And from one officer monitoring from above.
Oh, no.
For months, the only official version was what the San Bernardino County Sheriff said just after the shooting.
Preliminarily, again, there may be some indications that the passenger of the vehicle, which we believe is Savannah, may have been also involved in some of the fire exchange.
The indication was Savannah could have fired at deputies, but this video and audio just released under the California Public Records Act shows she was trying to get to safety while apparently shot by those tasked with trying to save her. Anthony Graziano was also killed in the shootout. The California Department of Justice is investigating. One retired police sergeant told CBS Los Angeles,
"You had deputies over here that are firing at the truck, so you had a crossfire situation also."
Tonight, Savannah's family says they're too distraught to talk about the tragedy, but they want answers on how deputies are trained for incidents like this. Elise Preston, CBS News, Los Angeles.
We have breaking news. Let's get right to Carissa Lawson.
A powerful earthquake rocked Taiwan tonight, collapsing buildings in the city of Hualien and triggering tsunami warnings in Japan's southern island of Okinawa. Taiwan television showed images of buildings shaken off their foundations. There are reports of people trapped among the shattered buildings. The U.S. Geological Service reports the epicenter of the quake was off the island's east coast, and the Philippines has issued a tsunami warning. Rescue efforts in Taiwan have begun even as aftershocks from the initial earthquake are taking place.
Tonight, we're getting our first look at the broken and twisted wreckage of the Francis Scott Key Bridge that's under the surface of the water. This as crews just opened a second channel to allow small barges and tugboats to move through the port. CBS's Chris Van Cleve has the latest on this daunting mission.
New sonar images show what can't be seen from the surface. Up to 90% of the Francis Scott Key Bridge sunk to the bottom of the shipping channel, leaving a maze of twisted, mangled steel and concrete. Work made more challenging by the storm pounding the eastern U.S. Tuesday.
The wreckage on the bottom of the 50-foot channel is far more extensive than we could have imagined.
But signs of progress. The first ship passed through one of two temporary channels now open. A larger third one is planned, but none will be able to handle large cargo ships, leaving one of the country's biggest ports largely shut down and 8,000 jobs in limbo.
It's been a little quiet.
Vinny's Cafe relies on those port workers. Fabrizio Scotto is the manager.
It's like a chain effect, really, not just us, all the businesses around are, I'm sure, are really feeling it.
Dozens of local businesses are already applying for low-interest loans of up to $2 million to cover lost revenue stemming from the bridge collapse.
We can try to provide some measure of certainty at a time that just feels very uncertain.
While the NTSB investigation is expected to take 12 to 24 months, the Singapore-based owner of the cargo ship Dolly that struck the bridge last week filed a motion in federal court asking a Baltimore judge to rule it's not liable for any loss or damage from the fatal crash and destruction of the Key Bridge.
The work at what's left of the bridge going on behind us is a 24/7 effort now. And getting that third temporary channel open is so important, the governor says, because it will allow smaller commercial vessels to be able to access the port. Each ship that gets there supports 100 port jobs. Nora?
Very important. Chris Van Cleve, thank you very much. A man is diagnosed with a rare case of bird flu, how it's linked to dairy cows, and what it means for the country's milk supply. We've got those details next. Tonight, a dairy worker in Texas has tested positive for bird flu after being in contact with sick cows who got the highly contagious virus from migrating ducks and geese. The CDC telling CBS News there has never been human-to-human spread in the U.S., but they are stepping up their posture and being vigilant. CBS's Amelia Magavro reports on what impact the outbreak could have on the country's milk supply.
Tonight, one of the largest egg producers in America temporarily stopped production after discovering bird flu in its flock of 1.6 million hens. In a statement, the company said it remains dedicated to robust biosecurity programs across its locations. This comes all after Texas officials warned dairy farmers to take precautions after cases of bird flu have been found in cows for the first time in the U.S.
They're identifying animals who may be at risk of any symptoms, and those animals are being removed from the herd to be monitored and treated separately.
Now, the Texas Department of Health revealing the highly infectious virus has spread to a dairy worker who was working with sick cows.
There was one human case in a dairy farmer, someone with close contact with an infected cow. Influenza is one of the viruses that likes to change and mutate, and we know that it has the potential, the virus has the potential to cause a pandemic.
The patient had conjunctivitis, was told to isolate, and is being treated with Tamiflu. 6 states are reporting dairy cows have tested positive for bird flu since the end of March, suggesting it's likely being transmitted within cattle herds. The CDC says the risk of humans getting bird flu is low, and the USDA tells CBS News, although the situation is rapidly evolving, consumers shouldn't worry, saying there is no concern about the safety of the commercial milk supply.
Consumers need to know that none of the milk entered the food chain. Wouldn't have mattered anyway because we pasteurize milk, which kills all the pathogens, and we haven't destroyed enough milk to make a dent in the milk supply. So the prices of dairy products should remain stable.
Now, the USDA is not issuing an official quarantine, but it's really urging dairy farms like the one behind me to really limit the movement and transporting of cows. And even this dairy farm is restricting access to the public and only allowing workers and dairy farm workers on its property. Nora?
But that is some good news about the milk supply. CBS's Amelia Magavro, thank you so much. All right, a former hangout of Hollywood stars, the legendary Tropicana Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas closes its doors after 67 years. We'll have the details next. It was a historic day on the Las Vegas Strip. The Tropicana, once synonymous with glitz and glamour, closed its doors for good after welcoming guests and gamblers since 1957. In its heyday, it was a hangout for the likes of Elizabeth Taylor, Debbie Reynolds, Frank Sinatra, and Sammy Davis Jr. The iconic hotel even appeared in the 1971 James Bond movie, Diamonds Are Forever. But in Sin City, few things are forever, and the Tropicana will be imploded this fall to make way for a new Major League Baseball stadium. Wow, what will that do for traffic? Heart of America is next with a hot meal and a friendly faces at a restaurant staffed by people with developmental disabilities. Finally, our Heart of America on this World Autism Awareness Day. A majority of the 7 million Americans with intellectual and developmental disabilities have a hard time finding work. Tonight, CBS's Nikki Batiz takes us to one restaurant serving up good meals and opportunities.
Serving coffee at Café Joyeux in New York City has changed Rachel Barcelona's life.
I've been rejected so many times and told I was a burden because of my autism.
Now 27 years old, Rachel learned she is autistic when she was 3. Despite being crowned Miss Florida for America last year, she says she's had a tough time finding a job.
Take me to the moment you found out you got this job.
I was in shock. I just never had anyone believe in me like that before. And I was going to get paid, too.
Café Joyeux's mission is to promote the inclusion of men and women in the community by hiring and training them to work in its cafes by managers like Sarah Parks.
You know, some of our crew are really talkative and cheerful and welcome you as soon as you come to the door. Some are a little bit more shy.
Founded by a French social entrepreneur, there are 20 Café Joyeux across Europe, all employing people who are neurodivergent. This is the first in the U.S.
That's the whole point of Café Joyeux, is to give us the opportunities to never give up.
What does Joyeux mean?
Joyful.
Joy is exactly what they are serving up here. Nikki Batiz, CBS News, New York.
All Café Joyeux profits go toward training and employing men and women with disabilities. And that's why they're tonight's Heart of America. I'm Nora O'Donnell. Good night.